Good morning and welcome to our, depends how you look at it really, whether it's our second episode of the new podcasts or our ninth episode of the old podcast. It's up to you. We're all about choices here. This new podcast is called Neurodivergence, more than a label. It is not more than a feeling, more than a number in my little red book, more than this. Or what was the last one? I can't remember now.
Oh, it's just gone. We were
It's
having a
just
bit of a
gone.
laugh about it, weren't we?
So you got two old men talking about neurodivergence today. This episode is called Autism the Big One, and my name's Andrew Whitehouse. I'm a specialist in neurological disorders. I work for local authorities. I do observations in schools, colleges, further education, higher education, and the workplace. And I do a lot of training. Now, this is my friend Gordon. What is it you do?
Well, I'm a parent, but as being a parent, my children are adults, but I run or help run with four other parents, PACT, Parents and Autistic Children Together support group. We have a subscription site called pactfamily.com, where we put lots of videos out looking at what will be helpful for parents to help their children or themselves. Um, I also run some workshops and I do one-to-ones with parents, helping with regards to EHCPs, DLA forms, PIP forms, that sort of thing. And generally just giving them helpful advice to navigate the world of neurodivergence and helping them to be advocates for themselves as well.
Yeah, that's a big one, isn't it? That
Yeah.
really, that's a really big one. Talking of big one, yeah.
Yes.
Why did we call this autism the big one?
Because it's such a big subject,
Hmm.
lots of people, and I think professionals, always seem to think that they understand autism when actually they don't, in the way that we would expect them to.
Okay, big question then. Do you understand autism?
No, I understand my children
Yeah.
to a degree, but my son would disagree. He says, "Well, you don't understand. You don't know what I'm thinking. You don't know what I'm feeling."
Hmm.
Um, I understand it from my perspective of what I have had to do and how I've had to change to parent my children. And they're both parented differently
Hmm.
because their needs are so different as well, although they both
Yeah.
have a diagnosis of autism among them.
Learning on learning on the job, aren't we?
You never stop. Our children are our teachers if we allow them to be.
Yeah, that's interesting stuff. Funny you say that. You say that because I went through all the different stuff I do, and I forgot to mention that I too am a parent
Yes.
of young people on the spectrum. I've got I've got a blended family, and we've got all sorts of stuff going on in our family, and it's hard. It's really hard. I was working with a woman this week in a fantastic special school in Lincolnshire, and the Sanko, very highly qualified indeed. And she said something really interesting. She said to me, we were going through a list of young people she wanted me to observe, and the one of them, she said, uh, what is it? When you see this child, you will see what people think autism is.
All right.
And I thought immediately, I thought of the Rain Man thing.
Yeah.
If you've not seen Rain Man, I personally don't recommend it. It's a dreadful film with Dustin Hoffman plays an autistic person who, like all autistic people, is absolutely incredible mathematician, amazing at gambling, and makes everybody a millionaire. And so if you've not explored that part of autism in yourself or in others, but what that brought to me was what people think autism is was, well, then the other 10 that I'm observing that day must be what people don't think autism is.
Right.
In which case, we've got a 90% failure rate here.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, I was talking to a very, very highly educated um, individual, and he's um, been in education for forever. He's well into his 60s, and he's been in education since probably the age of 5, and he's never left education at all. And worked his way up. He's been an Ofsted inspector and various other bits and bobs. And I had told him about my son having a diagnosis of autism. No, 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 he's not autistic. He can do this and do that. And he completely dismissed it.
Mm,
And at the time of my involvement with this individual, um, I had learned to not go down the road of having a fight and sort of trying to persuade him that my son was. I just said,
mm,
well, okay, fine, if that's your opinion, but I need you just help out as to what our particular problem is here.
yeah.
And I spoke to him years later, and it was just towards the end of last year that I spoke to him. So there's probably about 8 years gone by since we last had dealings with Sam and this person. And he said, "Do you know, Gordon, I'm learning a lot more now, and you very, very kindly allowed me to get away with a very dismissive thing, which I really, really apologize about now, because I'm learning more, and it's very, very eye-opening."
Mm.
Uh, so he'd gone back in the full circle and now learning the other side of things and what have you.
Well, learning's the key, isn't it? It's like uh, I think. I mean, you and I have been doing this a long time, you know,
Mm,
and I used to. My job was so easy 25 years ago because 25 years ago, or longer actually, but I'd observe a child and I would say, "Oh yeah, no problem. Incredible 5-point scale, social stories, try to bring down the sensory environment, da 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 da. Bingo, there's your lot. I'm out of here." And I really felt it was that easy. The 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 problem is now, years later, I've learned more.
yeah,
So now, when a professional or a parent speaks to me, I go, well, it could be this and it could be that. You can try this. It may work, it may not, and it actually gets harder. And so one of my frustrations is anybody who tells me that they know autism, we won't call them a dirty liar, will we?
well, no, we've just run the other way, I think.
Yeah, well, yeah, or just say, well, just accept the fact that actually, if you think that, you're probably wrong. I've
Yeah.
never met anyone, and I've worked with some of the top people in the world,
Mm,
and actually, you can't know this stuff. You really can't, and if you behind the scenes, especially with consultancy work, all these people, are ringing each other up.
yeah, yeah,
I'll ring up. Rebecca Duffus or someone like that, and I'll say, I've got this kid, can you help me? I'm clueless, I've got no idea what to do. I hear so many things,
yeah, yeah.
so many things. And so yeah, if you think you've made it, you've not. Not
No,
not at all.
no. And I think it begs a question of what is autism? Um, and you brought it up last week, and you said you wanted to hurt yourself when you mentioned it.
Yeah.
Um, and the very, very simplistic and easy way to say it is your brain's wired differently. But that doesn't tell the story of it either, does it? Because it just makes
No,
it too
no.
simplistic.
So
Uh,
so
go
so well, first of all, the reason I want to hurt myself every time I say wired differently is because there are no wires.
no,
I mean, it's not, it's a brain that functions differently. Absolutely. It's not a brain with something wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with that. Well, it could be, but that's not the autism, you
yeah,
know. Um, it's not, and of course, we used to work with things like the triad of impairments and stuff like that, and we know it's so much wider than that. I mean, um, I'll put it up. Actually, we've got a mind map of what autism covers. There
yeah.
must be 200 things on there.
huge amounts.
Yeah,
Huge.
we'll put it up for you to have a look at. I mean, we're going to be running a workshop or several workshops on that. But yeah, what is autism? What is autism to one is not autism to another. You talked about your two children or adult children. You have to parent them completely different.
Yeah, yeah, and we, we've got the difference of my son and then my daughter.
Mm,
Uh, they both look so different, and we missed our daughter completely, and she didn't get the diagnosis till age 14 when
mm,
things were really bad because she wasn't like my son, and so therefore
no.
she wasn't autistic as far as I was concerned back then, and she was just who she was, and that
Mm,
is she still is, and as we said last week, she is Lily, um, but we had missed some crucial information because I was expecting, if anything, to be a bit like my son, and it just wasn't. It was
no.
totally poles apart, and that in itself is a brilliant learning curve to understand just what we need to do, and we mentioned it that we treat and not treat, but we look at and work with the individual and
Mm.
their needs as to what's on there.
I mean, as a specialist, as a professional, I would have missed Sam.
Yeah,
I have the most wonderful, lovely conversations with Sam. There's no real hints and clues into conversations I've had with Sam ever, not once ever.
mm,
And that brings up all manner of sort of things. So for example, that brings up the fact that we are different in different settings.
yeah.
How many school teachers go, I feel for the teachers and the Sankos because the parents are going, my child has just thrown the chair out the window or something like that and is always doing this, and the other. The Sanko is not allowed to bear witness to anything they haven't witnessed. Of course not. That would be ridiculous. But, and they're saying, well, they're all right at home. They're okay at home. Sorry, at school. They're okay at school. And you've got this total kind of like different presentations in different settings. You've also got masking, and I
Yeah.
don't know if Sam's masking when he talks to me.
No.
That's why they call it masking.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. He's very good at it.
Yeah, he's incredible. And we talk about cars, and we both like very old fast cars, and we have all those conversations, and there is nothing within that. But this is the point. I mean, again, you see people say, "Is my child masking?" I don't know. It's masking. I'll tell you how you tell if a child's masking. Go and see what they're like 2 hours later,
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
see the exhaustion, the after effect of the masking.
Yeah.
That's the best way to spot that.
Mm.
So
I was asked by a Senko actually, can children mask all day at school? Because they didn't think they could. They said
yeah,
they can't do that all day. I said they can, they do, because they don't want to feel out of place or let
no,
people think that they're struggling.
yeah,
Um, but maybe we should go back a little bit and sort of we mentioned what is autism, and we know that it was called at one point ASD.
yeah. Still is in reports I read.
Yeah, yeah. Some people will say, no, 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 you can't call it a disorder. So it's ASC, autism
Mm.
spectrum condition.
Condition like
Then it's,
dandruff.
yeah, yeah. We'll get rid of it one day, hey? Head and shoulders will cure.
Absolutely.
And then we've got autism itself. Is so autism is the umbrella, but
Yeah.
what's under that umbrella of autism?
Mm.
And there's quite a few things there, isn't there? So it used to be, and there still is because people have the diagnosis of Asperger's.
Mm.
And there's a big community of Aspies out there.
Yeah.
And when we can't take away their identity just because something has changed along the pathway,
No.
we still have to have that and acknowledge it. The big one that's not really talked about, but it is talked about by parents and everything else, is PDA,
I
The
majored in that in my autism masters, by the way.
what PDA?
PDA, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But they don't want to recognize it, but it is something that the profile is huge. And to call it autism doesn't necessarily do it the justice it needs
No.
because of the difficulties of associating it with autism and bringing in the routines and everything else. It's just totally the wrong way around, but although they still need a routine.
So can I just nub in there? Just
Yeah,
one thing, by the way. You'll have noticed Gordon called Asperger people Aspies. It's an in-community term, really. That I think it's kind of. I know you were making the example, weren't you? But the Asperger community really doesn't like other people calling them Aspies, do they? You know.
I think you've got to be invited in, haven't you?
You got to, yeah, absolutely. It's about formal and informal speaking French, you know.
Yeah,
And but absolutely, you've got to. I've just put that out there because I didn't want to anyone to be offended by us. The other thing was, I was having a conversation with my wife, Mrs. Whitehouse, and last night, in fact, and she is a teacher of special educational needs, mostly autistic and ADHD teenagers in a special school setting. And she was talking about someone who had Fragile X
yeah,
syndrome.
yeah,
And I said, "Oh, did you know that's a form of autism?" And she said, "No, I didn't, is it?" I said, "I don't know." She said, "What are you talking about?" You know, you just said it is. Now you're saying you don't know because some people think it is and some people think it isn't.
yeah. Because the sort of presentations are almost identical
Yeah,
with the two exceptions.
yeah, that's it. And then we could get into some real, we need to do some stuff on fetal alcohol syndrome and things like that, where
Yeah.
the comparisons are massive,
Yes.
absolutely massive. Um, but yeah, absolutely. You know, what is autism? Well, autism is a thousand different things, isn't it? You know, me as a professional doing an observation or a consultation, I generally start with the young person or child and anxiety. Now, I used to start with sensory, but I now start with anxiety. Is this affecting them? Is this impairing life?
Yeah.
You know, and neurodivergent people. I don't know what comes first, the chicken or the egg, really. Is the anxiety caused by the neurotypical world having expectations, or is it already there and it's just exacerbated by the rest of the world?
Who knows? I just know that looking at my children and a lot of children that I have not worked with, but been involved with in the youth clubs and
Yeah.
parents talking to me and everything else, is that the anxiety is not necessarily understanding the feelings that are going on within the body,
Mm,
which again, which is why you would touch on sensory to a degree.
mm,
The understanding of why do I not do what the other children are doing?
mm.
The answer, why can't I understand what is being said to me? Or why won't you understand what I'm telling you? Because it's
Yeah.
so straightforward, so simple. And all of these things are sort of just creating a problem that now I'm lost and I don't understand it. I'm getting frustrated and it just builds up and builds up. But we can't verbalize it or vocalize it because we don't actually know what this feeling is.
No, no, it is. Yeah, it's the unknown, isn't it? And it's like anything, you know, you, you, I could say to you, do you have those blue dots in front of your eyes, Gordon?
Mm,
And you'll say, what the hell is he talking about? Because we don't know how each other feel.
yeah,
And we
yeah.
don't know what each, you know, I'm looking at you, I see a very handsome man with a beard. Yeah.
Well, of course.
Of course, but you know, someone else might look at you and be seeing something completely different. We don't know that conceptually. We just don't know it. We've also got that issue with anxiety, is anxiety can actually not present at all. There's nothing there to see.
Yeah.
And that anxiety, I mean, again, I've been working with a little girl. She's 8, and I've been working with this kid, and she's I was astounded at the fact nobody had noticed this anxiety in her. And it was a real clear day where anything to do with academic learning, she just switched off, but she looked so sad and unhappy and just dreadful, sinking down into her chair, didn't want to be part of anything. They did a poetry reading and she literally did the goldfish thing, wasn't even vaguely interested. In the afternoon, this same child was doing drama and um, music, completely different setup,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, and you could spot it. But you know what I think? I think as well, as you oil your squeakiest nut first,
Yeah.
and she's not causing any trouble for anybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in that same class, there were a few what we often hear described as characters. But yeah, it's interesting the anxiety, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's also acknowledging and trying to understand individual. This is normal. This is
Yeah,
my normal.
yeah,
And Sam used to suffer dreadful as a child with migraines.
right.
And it was years later. I mean, we had medication that to prevent the migraine coming on because it was so bad. But he talked about colors, the color purple and green.
Hmm.
Whenever it's getting really, really bad, these colors become very, very um, prevalent within his vision and everything else. And he sort of said, "Yeah, I'm getting a migraine coming on because I can see it." I think, what do you mean? Can see it? And it's, oh yeah, everything is purple or green, and then they merging together. I think, oh my goodness. And there was another guy that we were talking about, and he saw the world in different colors, and he
Hmm.
could see colors all over the place. And it wasn't until a conversation that I'm not sure if it was a youth club or a support group meeting, and he had just happened to mention this. And his mum went, "Really?" He says, "Well, doesn't everybody
Hmm.
see that?" And it says, "No." And it's really interesting if we start getting talking to our children as to what is it you're seeing, what is it that
Yeah.
is not how do you feel, but what is it you're seeing, what is it that's doing this, etc. The amount of conversations that come out, not necessarily when things are going bad, but just out of conversation, it really is an eye opener.
So I'm going back to my stock phrase, all behavior is communication, and I'm going to talk about colors, and I'm going to talk about the zones of regulation, which is a visual uh, a visual resource for helping with regulating re-regulating for
Yeah,
young people. And basically it goes through a series of colors. And I think it's red, yellow, blue, and green or something like that. Uh, and
yellow, blue, green.
anyway, I put this in place for a child. And I said to the Senko, I said, this should help. It might not, but it should. And I said, you do that with this child, you go through their zones 3, 4 times a day, and it helps them to regulate. Brilliant. Okay, we'll do that. So I came back a few weeks later and I said, how did you get on with the zones? Oh, not very good, Andrew. I said, oh dear, what happened? She said, well, I'd say to this child, what are you? You red or green or blue or yellow today? What are you? And this kid would go, black. I'm black. I'm on black. And she'd be go, but there is no black. You know, you can't be on black. Stop being silly. Black. Come on. That's the best communication you could ever hope for. Yeah. I don't like your zones, or my anxiety is to such a peak that I'm off the scale here.
Yeah, yeah,
And it's about reading between the lines a lot of the time, isn't it? You
yeah,
know, and saying, actually, you've just got a significant amount of information from that child as a starting point for where you could go with that child.
Yeah.
And absolutely brilliant, really. You know,
It's sort of knowing to be flexible
yeah,
and being able to listen. Because I think that was my biggest problem at the very beginning, is that my children were
mm,
very, very clear what they wanted me to do,
yeah,
but I wasn't listening because they weren't doing what I wanted them to do.
I know. And this is a big one. I'm the same. I'm actually the same. And I take one of my boys to college a couple of mornings a week, and I love the drive, except he's just foul and obnoxious for the first 20 minutes. Till I
Mm.
get a sausage roll in his mouth, he's horrible. And what's funny, I think you're allowed to call your own kids horrible, are you?
Yeah, yeah. As long as
But he's just, and this is hangry, this is neuropeptide Y, this is all these things. It's largely irrelevant what it is.
yeah,
It's about how you handle it, you know. And a lot of frustration comes out of our autistic kids. A lot of frustration, and you don't want to be part of that.
no, no.
You want to be, you want to be the listener. And I've really changed my attitude. My family's gone through a lot of upheaval in the last few years. And so as a result of this, I've, through self-reflection, changed how I talk to my family, my children.
Mm.
And it's been hugely successful.
Yeah, yeah.
And they'll tell me anything. And I cannot, I mean, we had a trauma in our family, we're just not seeing each other for a couple of years. And I think that for me has given me the wake-up call. Stop taking it for granted. Listen, listen to what they're saying. Don't take it personally. Autistic people will say, can say, sorry, some of the most outrageous things.
Yeah,
And your job is to just not make a big deal of it, you know? Or is it? I don't know. Your job is to not make a big deal of it, but your job is also to make it very clear it's okay speaking to me like this, but don't don't do that when you get out and about because you'll have no friends and you get a punch in the nose,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
Or maybe it's not the don't do because we're giving them a demand
Mm,
potentially, but it's a matter of when you speak to various people, there's different methods
mm,
or different approaches you can
yeah,
use. With very, very close friends and family, you can be open in that. But with people you don't necessarily know, you may have to adopt a different. And here's the reasons why you
yeah.
would do that.
But
Uh,
that's a minefield in itself, isn't it? Because with the rigid thinking in autism, we do things like this or we do things like that. The story I've been telling for about a year now, and about the school I visited,
yeah.
where I spoke to the head teacher in one way, the Senko because she's a friend in another way, and the cook another way.
Yes.
You know, and this is not because I value these people differently. This is not because I feel one is more important than another. It's because of status almost, or just or um, social expectation. You know, So the cook will make this. I mean, she will make a kind of slightly sarcastic joke about if I'm ordering my food, she'll be joking your wife doesn't feed you properly or something like that. The head teacher, we're going to be talking about what's going to go on today and action planning and all the rest of it. And the Senko's going to be the one giving me the timetable and taking me around the school. And that's just three. That's
Yeah.
just three.
And
Sorry, go on. Yeah,
no, no, and here's the strange thing because I was thinking, so it's respect, but it's the same level of respect that you're giving each one, but at the level that you of their communication with you, and
mm,
whether it's going to be formal, informal, or whatever, but you're still respecting them at the
yeah,
level of that conversation.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. You are respecting them, and it gets more complicated for autistic people when I mean, right, so I was in Tesco yesterday, yeah, shopping with one of my boys, and it's very interesting. There was a woman in the supermarket. I didn't see her, but she's an old friend of mine. I haven't seen for a long time. And my son Isaac said, "Oh, we'll call her Lucy. I've just seen Lucy." I said, "Oh, Lucy, Lucy, Lucy," and he was going, "Yeah, Lucy, Lucy, Lucy," you know. And he said, "But I didn't speak to her because he said I didn't know if you wanted to speak to her or not." So there's a little bit of social navigation there.
Mm.
He knows you're either going to want to speak to this person or not. So he's one step of ahead of the game with autism, isn't he? Because the autism in itself would be, "Hi Lucy, my dad's over there," or hiding from her, one or the other. But he didn't do that. He just came and checked first. I said, "Oh, I'd love to see this person." Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
This person had lost a child. A child had passed away a few years ago, and I hadn't really seen her since then. And I say we're quite close. Next big obstacle, Gordon, the hug. Do you hug? Well, I've not seen her for years. I can't remember if we hug or not hug. And there
yeah,
was this moment of looking at each other, and then we both decided, yeah, it's okay, in with the hug, right? But what an absolute minefield.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And then we how the kids doing, how the kids doing, isn't he tall? Yes, yes, yes. And all the same lines I say, he's giving me hand-me-downs now, you know. Oh God, they get so big, don't they? Do we talk about the child that passed away?
yeah.
I don't know. I
Mm.
decided not. I decided not because I've never been in that situation, thankfully, and I don't know what to do in that situation. I'll happily, me, I'll talk about anything. But, we're in the queue at Tesco's.
Yeah,
It's just not the place, is it?
it's not the place at all.
But, you just, yeah, really, really difficult. And this minefield that autistic people, because there's not a rule book.
No.
It's Claire Sainsbury said, it's like everyone's playing a complicated game, and I'm the only one who doesn't know the rules. You know? Well, yeah, I get that. I get
Yeah.
that.
And it's the rules that everybody are obeying to, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're the right
But
rules.
they're not, that's the other thing. It's not an exact science.
No.
So the school I was in this week, yeah, we talk about the head teacher that he was very formal with, yeah, and I know her quite well. And then
Mm.
there's a head teacher this week who I don't know that well, was big on the hugs and big on the, on the social with me.
Yeah, yeah.
And you don't know where it's coming from. So even you could even say to the autistic child, that's a head teacher, you do it like this. But that's not the truth, is it?
No, no. Yeah, well, it is. I mean, I've taken my daughter to Horncastle this morning because her
All
car's in
right.
service and we couldn't get um, a replacement car because of her age, etc. We just couldn't hire a car. The garage didn't have any cars available, etc., etc. And I just basically said, "Is there anybody from Lincoln that goes to your school that you're working at?" She goes, "Oh yeah, but I'm not asking them." Oh right, that's interesting. So why aren't you asking them? Oh, it's a deputy head. That, okay, fair enough.
Mm,
I'm not going to put you through that awful 40 minutes journey of feeling really, really uncomfortable.
no.
But it would do me a wonderful favor if you were to just ask him. But she saw him as an authoritative figure in their school, and there's a limit, there's a line that she does not want to cross. Um,
Mm,
and she would feel so uncomfortable, first of all, asking, and
yeah.
then going through a journey both ways of 40 minutes in a car of thinking, what am I going to say?
So in the form of social convention, I totally understand that. What I don't understand is why didn't you give me a ring, man?
Why?
Why didn't you give me a ring?
What to take her?
Yeah.
Because I was able to take her.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah. If I wasn't, I would have done. If I was
Yeah.
struggling to do it, then I would have given you a call. Yeah.
But it's almost as well, maybe you didn't, maybe you did. We do pigeonhole people, don't we?
Yeah.
We do pigeonhole people, and I'm sure you would have rang me and asked me, yeah. But or you could go, oh no, he's the guy. We don't have that relationship. And
Mm.
you have to make that. So it's yeah, it's tricky. Sensory, Gordon.
Yeah.
Sensory. I'm just pushing us down the road a bit. Joe, I think this is going to have to go into two episodes, maybe.
Yeah, yeah, we will be coming back to it because,
Oh, 100% coming back to
yeah,
it.
I think we'll be coming back to it because we haven't really, autism, the big one, we're having a conversation and this could be about anybody.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And I
yeah,
think
could
that's the
be.
thing about autism, it could be about anybody. And we're
Yeah.
having these struggles, but it's how is it affecting, and how is it affecting the, the neurodivergent side of things within there opposed to the neurotypical. Uh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
it's-
absolutely. You
and,
know,
and I think before you go into the sensory, I'll just bring it onto this in terms of
it's all good.
we've had comments, and it is probably one of the most offensive comments that you can make is that but we're all a little bit autistic anyway.
Oh, awful,
Um,
awful.
and so when we're talking about these things, and if somebody who's just looking at this podcast out of interest will say, "Oh yeah, but that's my child, or that's this," and then they're not autistic, and so they're just traits, and it's almost brushing aside, but
Mm.
it's to the degree and how much more and how is it affecting is it's the difference really, isn't it?
It sure is. But my answer to we're all a little bit autistic, yeah, is yeah, and we're all a little bit pregnant as well. You can't be a little bit. You
Yeah.
can't, I do understand people who ask, so I'm ADHD, and so I think sometimes people notice differences in the way I converse and things like that. And I understand people find it difficult to ask, and some people want to know, and I want to tell them, you know. And so I know I had a guy that I work for who said, may I ask, are you on the spectrum? No, no, I'm not. But that's a perfectly acceptable way to go in on that, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know, and not everyone does know the language to use and things like that, you know. And it's like I was working with somebody who used a very, very outdated term for race.
Uh-huh.
That this was not a person that wanted to hurt anybody's feelings or upset anyone. This is a good person. And and I took her to one side a little bit later when I had the first opportunity and said, I don't know if you know, but that's not the terminology, and it's not really what, you know.
Mm.
And that person was happy to take on that information,
Yeah, yeah.
just like the other guy was happy to be told, well, no, I'm not on the spectrum, but I have this condition, etc. And then we have that thing about sort of sharing, sharing the truth, really, haven't we? But now we're getting into last week's episode of labels again, aren't we? So,
Yeah, yeah. But the truth comes into it, and we'll come back to truth. Uh,
mm,
because there's an awful lot of conversation I have with parents asking about their children lying. But if we go back to your question on where I rudely direct you down a different path of sensory, we wanted to talk about sensory.
yeah. Well, I just thought, it went through my mind that the both of us really, we both start with anxiety, I'm sure. I know you certainly do. And then I think the next step along the line for me is to look at sensory,
Yeah.
and
Mm.
and for me, mostly working in school settings, although I'm all over the place. I always say to people that I'm omnipresent like God because I work so hard, I'm everywhere. But you know, when I'm in a learning environment, it's the sensory I look at,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
It's very telling, isn't it? And the reason I like to try and focus on sensory is because it's something we can do
Yeah.
there and then. We can help reduce their anxiety of
Yeah.
understanding the senses and what can we do. We can send them out for a little break. Go to the receptionist. Ask them to bring back a piece of paper. Ask them to give them that break to time and that everything. Or let's run up and down this corridor for 2 minutes or whatever.
Mm.
But these are things we can get them to regulate quite quickly if we know what we are dealing with and what's
Yeah.
causing these issues. So sensory for me is the let's get this part dealt with and we can deal with that, and then we can look at the bigger picture
Yeah.
further down the line of the autism or the ADHD, etc.
So should we have an example of sensory? Can I give you an example?
Yeah, please
This is
do.
a really, really lovely, simple thing that I witnessed in a school. It was Halloween or round about that period, and the teacher was reading a spooky children's ghost story, 5-year-olds.
Yes.
And she's reading this, and it's a lift the flap book. And at one point, they lift the flap, and the ghost is there. And she gets the children to go, ah! The autistic child puts his hands over his ears. He doesn't like it. Yeah. Really basic intervention. What could I do differently? Well, instead of you want ooh. And it's how to bring that sensory down. Everyone's still getting the same experience.
Yeah.
Everyone's still getting the same story, just being creative.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely being creative. Using things like, I mean, I use the incredible 5-point scale. You can find that anywhere, Amazon, eBay, wherever you want to go. And the incredible 5-point scale will have voice scales. How, when do you need to be at one level, quiet, right up to loud? And so it's just easy to think about stuff like that, really.
Mm-hmm.
One of the other ones is playing music in the classroom. Now, people get really, really um, kind of difficult with me about the music thing and about saying, well, we put music on because it helps them learn, and it doesn't help them learn. It stops them from learning because what we're actually doing in this situation is autistic people have single attention. They concentrate on one thing at a time. If they are doing a piece of writing and expected to listen to a piece of music, they can only listen to one or do one
Yeah.
single attention. And so they might do the right thing or they might not do the right thing. And it's bringing things like that down, you know, paying attention to attention. So paying attention to sensory, sorry, and sort of noticing, I've delivered workshops and somebody literally you start and there's a pneumatic drill outside kicks off, or the bin men come by, or
Yeah.
whatever it was. Or one of my favorites of all time. This is just horrible. You can't be this unlucky, but I was. I was delivering a workshop, and then all of a sudden, beetles started falling
Oh
from the
wow.
air conditioning. Yeah. What's actually quite funny was it was in Liverpool. So here come all these beetles.
Was
Um,
it five of them or four?
there was about 50 of them. But anyway, you can't work through that.
No, no.
You can't work through that. And that's a sensory situation that you just go, just by the fact that it's a distraction.
Okay, so just to be a bit of a devil's advocate here,
Yeah.
we've got people that will sit in the classroom or
Mm.
come to workshops and everything else,
Yeah.
and they'll be listening to you, but they're doodling,
Right.
something else. Now they're doing two things. They're listening, but they're doodling.
So it depends on the individual. I've got people that really love to doodle, but when they get doodling, they're not listening.
Hmm.
So the single attention is taking them down the doodle route. I've also got people who, and you may not know this, but I'm the whole time I'm fiddling here with my keys.
Yeah,
I'm doing it quietly so nobody can hear, but I'm fiddling with my keys, and that is helping me to stay on focus. You have to be observant, or better still, encourage them to identify whether they are being observant and make a decision whether or not what they're doing is helping or hindering.
Yeah.
If it's helping, more of the same. If it's hindering, look for something different. And one of the best resources are the TTS fidgety feet, which is a little thing you put your feet on and you just rock. And I
Yeah.
always say, don't do anything. Let the resource do the work. And that's yeah. It's not really devil's advocate, Gordon, because we just it works for some and not for others.
And I think it does, because some people just need that thing to do to
Yeah.
be able to focus because there's so much going on. Well, if I can do this, they're not actually looking at it or being
Mm.
really paying attention to what it is they're doodling at, but they have to do it to concentrate.
Yeah.
Uh, but there are, if I start doodling, you've lost me.
Yeah. Really.
I won't hear a thing. I'm too busy looking at, well, what do I need to do? What stroke do I need to do here? What stroke do I need to do? And I'll try and make a picture of a doodle as well. I won't just doodle for doodle's sake. But it's because I'm fed up. I don't know what's going on. I'm lost. So I'll just go on there. People may think I'm trying to be listening attentively by doodling. So
So
so it's difficult.
I had a Senko last week. Fantastic in Coventry. And we had a final meeting before the training day. And we got on Zoom and I could see her, she's writing stuff down. And I said, would you do me a favor? I said, those notes you've been taking, could you share them with me? And she said, I don't think you're going to want them. And she held up this thing. She'd drawn a picture of a dog. It was, okay, no, you keep the picture of the dog. I don't need that. But yeah, you're very, very funny. But it clearly kept her on task because it kept on task. And but it might not have done. You're absolutely right. Doodling, by the way, one of the problems with doodling is it's visual and physical.
Yeah.
So doodling is like doing two things,
Mhm.
plus the third, which is you're paying attention.
Yeah, yeah. So that takes us to, if you're not doodling, fidget toys.
Right, so do they call them fidget toys? I like fidget tools.
Oh, fidget tools. Yes,
But I mean,
I was
they,
going to suggest that as well.
yeah, yeah. What do you think of them?
Well, I've seen so many children that will focus when being able to do
Mm,
something with their hands. I've been delivering some workshops here at the office for teenagers,
mm,
and their best listening is when they've got stretchy bands and they're doing this and doing that. They haven't actually got to focus on the actual thing, but their hands are moving and doing things like that. Now, whether that's pure autism or that's a mixture of different things that they just need to be on the go, I suspect it's probably more ADHD than it is autism.
mm,
But fidget, it's looking at what does that child need. A lot of people will give them blue tack because you just need something
mm,
to take away the brain going elsewhere. Well, if I'm doing this, I'm now concentrating on this. I'm now in the moment. It's almost like a mindfulness thing, but I'm able to listen. And so
yeah.
I think I've never really understood fidget tools. I don't get on necessarily with fidget tools at all. They annoy the heck out of me. But for certain people, they just it relaxes them. It just
Okay, Gordon. So you
relaxation.
did devil's advocate on me. I'm going to do it back at you. Why should he get a fidget tool and the others not?
Yeah, yeah.
Because that
Well,
I hear a lot.
yeah. So why can't they? Why can't they all have a fidget tool, a fidget toy?
Because for some children, they won't particularly need it. So
Yeah,
why put the complication in place?
yeah,
And also, for some children, it will be a toy.
yeah. Exactly. And it's knowing what the benefit of that
Mm,
is. So I was talking to a lady on Wednesday.
right,
We were talking about the fidget toys, and this particular classroom and school have a fidget basket so that
right.
any child going into the room can use a fidget tool if they want. but it can only be what we as a school have provided in this basket. And this particular child had this fidget tool that was a certain color,
Hmm.
and he just loved that particular one and wouldn't entertain anything in the basket. So they wouldn't allow that fidget tool in the classroom because it wasn't in the basket. But it had something similar, but it wasn't that one. And they're saying he just won't regulate himself. The tools are no good for him. And that says, no, you're stopping him from bringing in what he can regulate with. And
Yeah.
can you tell me why he can't bring it in?
Yeah.
Because it's our rules. Yeah, but that's not an answer. Why can he not bring that into your class?
Why is that the rule? And also all the legal ramifications that are tangled up in that.
Yeah,
We ought to do one on the law, to be honest.
we will be doing.
Yeah.
Definitely. Definitely
Go-
will be doing.
Gordon has spoken. We will be doing. So the other one is the,
Big one.
perception, isn't it? With the fidget tools, is I, like you, think blue tack's great, but what
Yeah,
happens is uh, one member of staff gives the child a piece of blue tack and another one takes it away.
yeah,
And you
yeah,
know what? There's a tool specifically for this called therapy,
yeah.
and you see a child playing with therapy and they won't take it away. And it's almost exactly the same thing. Only one is labeled as a special needs resource, and one is not. So, by golly, Gordon, we've got through some stuff, haven't we?
We have,
And
and we haven't really touched on anything.
I
Hence,
know, I
the big.
know.
We haven't
Um,
touched on how
and,
complex is this?
sorry,
How complex is this subject?
it's really, really complex, and I think we need to come back to it in a few weeks' time. I think we really do,
Yeah.
and and sort of discuss this. I think, didn't we say we were going to look at PDA next week?
Yes, we can do without a doubt.
Yeah,
But what about Andrew asking our listeners to send in questions on autism as to what they would like to hear
yeah.
us talk about as well? Because we can go
Well,
on with any
and not
subject.
just autism, everything.
Yeah,
And if we've got the knowledge between us, so if you want to get in touch about something else, dyslexia or dyspraxia, please do, you know. Also, redirect people back to our websites. I've got a contact form on mine. You can literally fill in a contact form. The website is andrewwhitehouse.co.uk. We've got PACT support. PACT is spelled PAACT support at
hotmail.co.uk.
hotmail.com. And
Dot co. No, no, not dot com. Dot co. Dot uk.
sorry, PACT support, PAACT support at hotmail.co.uk. There's
That's it.
also www.pact support, isn't there?
Yes.
And is that .com?
Hacksupport.com. Yes, it will be. Yes.
Right, okay. And PACT family as
Hack
well,
Family, the
which is
subscription
another.
site,
There isn't an email for PACT family, but there is a website for PACT family, isn't there?
and the website you can put comments on there. You can look at
Brilliant. And there's
videos.
also access, some of it you do have to pay for, but it's pretty darn cheap, to resources on there as
Yeah.
well.
Well, actually, there is packfamily@gmail.com.
Oh, there is. Okay. Pact,
Sorry,
and it's
packfamily.
PAACT at
Yeah.
gmail.com. So that's that. What do we need to do? Get in touch with us if you like it. Yeah, please send your comments. And this will be up uh, today, Friday the 24th. And there will be another one. We're looking at PDA this time next week.
Brilliant.
God, that's fabulous, isn't it, Gordon? Do you feel fabulous?
I do. I can't believe an hour has gone.
Oh yeah, and I'd do another one, but they'd probably throw things at us.
Yes.
So I'm just going to stop us there and thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Thank you.